Welcome to the Scalable Real Estate Investing Podcast, where we discuss the most scalable strategies, tools, and approaches to successfully invest in real estate. Learn how to make the most impact of your time, automate your real estate investing business, find off-market deals with minimum time invested, and leverage your capital to create as many income streams as possible so that you can achieve true financial independence. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Mason Clement. Hi, Scalable Investors. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Scalable Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Mason Clement, and today I have with me Stacy Rossetti. And Stacy is a very special guest because she's actually my mentor and coach. I haven't mentioned it a lot on prior episodes, but I'm solely focusing on self-storage facilities, and we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail with Stacy on why it's such a great asset class, and personally the one I feel like is worth my time and all my money to go into. Just a brief background, Stacy has already acquired, she's owning and operating 6 storage facilities. It's over 500 self-storage units, and just really excited to get into the details of everything. Stacy, how are things going for you? What's going on?
Hi, thank you. Good. Thank you for letting me be on the show.
Sure, we're super excited to have you. So why don't we just get into things? Every guest I have on, I just like to run through the background and just how you got into real estate and how it brought you to where you are now. Just go into that.
So I started actually 10 years ago, real estate investing. I was wholesaling and rehabbing, mostly rehabbing for almost 10 years. I'm still rehabbing actually today. I don't want to be rehabbing, but I am trying to get done with the last couple of houses that I bought a few years back, and just getting those off my plate because I really want to solely focus on storage facilities. But so yeah, I've rehabbed probably 100 homes in the last 5 years. I did a lot of rehabbing and wholesaling, and then just a lot of buy and holds. And then what happened was in 2017, I got pregnant. And when I was pregnant, I was probably doing at least 15 to 20 rehabs at the same time. It was ridiculous. I was running around like a crazy person and just trying to manage all these rehabs. And if anybody knows how to rehab or wholesale homes, you know that it's just like a lot of work to do this, right? And we had not focused on passive income at all, really. Essentially, I'd only had a couple of rentals, and my goal was always just to do as many rehabs as I possibly can. So we had been focusing on active income and not passive income. So when I got pregnant in 2017, essentially what happened is I told my husband, I was like, I don't want to do any more rehabs. I want to stay home and be with the baby. So how are we going to do that? And so essentially we decided that we were going to focus on passive income and just really look at what we could do, what we could buy. And at that time we looked at like multifamily, just like you. We looked at portfolios, buying like huge portfolios of 20, 30 houses. We looked at, and then luckily the storage facility just dropped in our lap while we were looking around. And so once we started getting the storage, I just haven't turned back, right? So that's kind of what happened. As I got pregnant and I decided that I wanted to stay home with Lillian and take care of her, and stopped buying storage facilities, stopped buying rehabs in 2017, and solely focused on passive income and storage facilities for the past 5 years now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And could you go into a little bit more detail about how that compares? I feel like some people may not understand just how much time and energy goes into like a single family fix and flip versus self-storage. How do those compare?
Yeah, it takes, essentially one rehab takes a lot of time, and it really depends on how much the rehab is, what your budget is. So if it's like, a $20,000 or $30,000 rehab, it's not that much time, right? But on average, a rehab costs at least $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 or higher, right? So mostly like the way you look at rehab is like maybe a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 rehab is like a rental rehab. And then the higher that you go, it's kind of like a bigger rehab up to like 100,000, which is like a full gut, and you're starting all over, right? And then the more of the rehab budget there is, the bigger that the rehab is, the more time and effort it is. And on average, my rehabs were anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000. And I was all about volume. So for me, it was all about like, rehabs that you could handle within a couple of months, and then you're in and out, right? And I thought that everything was automated and systematizing because I'm huge on this, right? But at the same time, it just, one rehab is really a lot of work. And think about when you're doing like 15 at the same time. I mean, and I had GCs that were managing all my rehabs. And then I actually had project managers that were managing my GCs, and I was managing the project managers. So it was very, very organized and systematized. But when you're managing so many people, I mean, it's really just a huge time suck. Right. And I always teach people the difference between like active income and passive income, right? So active income, it's a job, right? It's wholesaling and rehabbing. They're jobs. You become a contractor. As a rehabber, essentially, I was a contractor. I was managing all these contractors and subcontractors. And then passive income, I mean, if you truly make what you're buying passive income, it doesn't take a lot of time and effort to do that. I mean, especially in storage facilities. I mean, once you automate and systematize everything, you don't have to work that much. And that's the difference between passive and active income. Now, on the active income, you can make huge, big checks, right? So all of a sudden I'm getting 20, 30, 50, 60, 70, $80,000, right? But over time, you do the same exact thing with passive income. All right, so like I always tell my students too, like just balance it. If you want to have those huge, big checks, awesome, like wholesale a couple of deals and make those. But at the same time, make sure you're building your passive portfolio as well too.
Okay. I know we talk about wholesaling a lot, but actually I'm curious. I feel like there's this fear, probably irrational fear of like, am I creating my own competition by wholesaling a storage facility, for example, to someone else? Do you ever feel like that, or how do I get that thought out of my head?
Well, so you need to have an abundance mentality, my personal opinion. There's enough to go around. So I think it's a mindset thing. And essentially what's going to happen is like, especially for you, is like, once you really start getting into the storage investing world, or even just wholesaling, what happens is that you start getting all these leads. I mean, I get leads on a day, like pretty much on a daily basis on deals that I don't want to do. And I just wholesale those off. I mean, I get, I'll partner with somebody and I'll wholesale them off is what I'll do. Or I'll get somebody else to manage it for me, and then I'll just get some sort of cut. So it's really, wholesaling is all about like, if you don't want to buy that property, what can you do to make money off of it? That's essentially what wholesaling is, right? And so you can either like refer it to a realtor or a broker, commercial or residential, whichever type of property it is, or you can partner where you put it under contract and wholesale it, or partner with somebody else that knows what they're doing, and then you just get some sort of a cut from that too, or keep it. So that's kind of what happens when you start really getting in the real estate investing world, is that you'll come across so many different types of properties that you're just like, I don't really want this one, so I'll just wholesale it. I was on the phone today with another student, and he went to go look at a property. It was $150,000 for a storage facility. And I was like, get this property. It's so good. And he went down, he drove by, he's like, it's in like the middle of nowhere, and it's kind of like not a good area. He's like, I really don't want that one. I was like, well, then wholesale it. If you don't want it, he wants to sell. The seller wants to sell. Put it under contract. It was a really good price. And it was, $150,000 for like 60 units. I was like, it's a really good price. I was like, so put it under contract and wholesale it for like, $200,000, and see if you can get somebody to buy that, So that's kind of what wholesaling is. But I mean, definitely you have to have an abundance mentality for that. There is no such thing really. It's my personal opinion. There's no such thing as competition. There's enough to go around for everybody.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you actually just hit on it with that student. I think some people are probably wondering how much a self-storage facility usually costs. Like, what are the typical cap rates that you see when you're getting this flood of deals, and the purchase price typically?
Well, it depends on where you want to buy the storage facility, what the cap rate's going to be. So essentially what happens to the cap rate, is like in the middle of, in the city center, right, of like, let's say Atlanta or Orlando or Tampa or wherever you're at, like the city center, it's going to be 5 to 7% cap rate, right? That's essentially what it is. And then the further out that you go into the secondary and tertiary markets, then the higher your cap rate gets. Now, some people in their mind, they think that a low cap rate is less risk. The bigger companies like the REITs, this is what they think. But the thing is that they have so much money to spend. If they spend $2 or $3 million and make $500,000, they're happy, right? Whereas I personally feel that when you go out to the secondary or tertiary markets, and you buy a facility for 150,000 or 250 or 350, and you make 100,000 or 150 or 200,000 on it. I mean, and your cap rates are anywhere from 10 to 20%. Yeah, it's riskier because maybe there's not not the population out there, but at the same time, you can make just as much money. It's like, why not leverage your money? Why spend $2 million to make 500,000 when you can spend 150 to make 200,000? So for me personally, that's kind of how I look at the numbers. But REITs, all these REITs and all these kind of like Cube Smarts and public storages and all this, they have so much money to spend because they're just made up of hedge funds that they're okay for making $300,000 on $2 million. Whereas us little people, I feel like we have a better advantage. I mean, like the guy that we just talked about, he could buy this facility for $150. I mean, it's $150,000. It's really worth $200,000. Already he's got 50,000 in equity. And then if he gets it 100%, it's only 50% full. That's the thing too, is like, if you get it 100% full, you could sell it for at least 300 grand, fix it up and sell it. And then down the road, sell it for $300,000. You can make $150,000 on something that you've only owned a couple of years. So that cap rate, when you run those numbers on that cap rate, it's like at 14% cap rate. So for me personally, that's an awesome deal. So we're like, us people, we like these types of deals, but most people, they consider that risky, right? They want more, they want bigger deals, they want to develop them, and they want to, they think spending more money makes more money, which is true. But at the same time, I feel like you can make, as much money doing the little tiny deals as well too.
Okay. Yeah. I've also heard that the more capital you have to put to work, the harder it is to maintain those returns. I think it's just a different perception and a different problem that the REITs have.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
As I said, they're bigger, so they have a lot of money to spend, and we are, so we just have to be more creative and, with our deals, essentially is what it is. I wish I had millions and millions of dollars to go out and spend, and buy like ridiculous amounts of facilities and not really care about how much money. It's just like single family homes, like hedge funds that do single family homes. Remember back I don't know if you remember back in the day, but when I got started like 10 years ago, all these hedge funds were buying all these single family homes, and I would look at the numbers and they were like, they weren't making any money on them. Why are you even buying these properties? But I guess, they just think buy and hold, long-term appreciation. And that's exactly what like the REITs think as well too, I think. And they run their numbers on like 70% full, 70 to 80% full. They're happy when they're like 70 to 80% full. A lot of these big companies are.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So you mentioned earlier that you found that self-storage is a lot more passive. Can we go into that a little bit more? Earlier this morning, we obviously talked about there's a lot of upfront work when you close on the facility. But how does it become more passive, and how have you been able to automate your 6 properties?
Yes, so we've been virtual, electronic, automated, and systemized pretty much since we bought our very first facility, and the reason why is because for me personally, if I'm going to buy something that's passive income, why would I not want to make that passive income? Right. So essentially, internally in our system, in our organization, we just automate everything so much so that we can just be anywhere in the world and run our companies. And we've been testing that out for the past like couple of years now, because we do vacations literally like every month. We take like a week or 2 week vacation just to make sure that everything runs smoothly. So what we do is essentially the way that storage facility operation works, if you know what you're doing, right? If you know what you're doing, is that you just manage everything through a management software, right? And that management software is online, and there's all different kinds of online softwares out there that you can manage through. And what that means is it's just web-based, so I could be anywhere that I want in the United States or wherever, and just open it up and see all my tenants, everybody that's moving in, everybody that's moving out, see calls coming in, voicemails. Also through the management software, there's email management where you can do marketing specials, or you can email them and tell them they're going to raise the rates, or they're going to auction, or whatever it is. So essentially everything that you're doing that you can, I would say like 90% of what you're doing with your storage facility should be managed online. All right. And then there's 10%, which is, for instance, like overlocks, right? When somebody moves out and they leave trash, right? So somebody has to go clean that trash up or whatever, right? And then and then overlocking, like if somebody doesn't pay, going out and overlocking the facility. And so these kinds, there's a few like boots on the ground type of operations that you have to do, so in order to manage your software. And so that's what you have to kind of like figure out how you're going to do that. Either you're going to do it yourself. If you're just one facility, I recommend just doing it yourself and learning how to do it. But once you get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 facilities, I mean, who wants to do that? Who wants to drive around and like overlock and clean out trashes? I personally don't want to do that. So we just have we have a boots on the ground person that kind of manages all of our facilities and does that for us. And actually, that's really not even a lot of work. I mean, they go out once a week to do that. Once a week, we pay somebody like a couple $100 a week to go out and just manage all that for us. And the software actually manages that. So essentially, when they're walking around the storage facility, they're just, looking up the unit and then writing the notes and putting in the maintenance request, and this latch is broken or whatever. And the software manages all that for you as well too. So it's really kind of automated. It's just that we're not doing that. We delegate that off to somebody else to do.
Okay. And in terms of the rent collections, I realize these softwares will send out automated emails and text messages and other things, but how often are you having to call tenants and collect rent and chase after people?
Well, so that depends on what type of facility that you buy. All right. So if you're buying a mismanaged facility, guess what? You're going to be calling those people all the time because they're all used to being able to take advantage of the system. So mismanaged facility essentially is like an owner that does not know how to run their facility properly. They're not getting tenants to come in. They're probably just pocketing the money. They don't have a P&L. They don't have a balance sheet. They don't have any systems. They probably don't even have an online system to manage anything at all. Pretty much every single storage facility I've ever bought from, they open up their desk and they pull out like a yellow notepad and they go, oh yeah, these people didn't pay and these people did. I mean, essentially that's how they run their business. Those I call mismanaged facilities. All right. And so with those, when you buy those types of facilities, you've got to understand that in the beginning, you need to do what I call train your tenants. Right? So you're going to have to get them to understand that on the 1st, rent is due. By the 5th, it's late. By the 15th, you're going to overlock them, and the 25th auction process starts, right? And so you have to train them. And I'm going to tell you, in the first couple of months, when you buy a mismanaged facility, it's not fun to do that, right? Because they're so used to taking advantage and they're so used to just paying cash, and this kind of stuff. So I would say it's like the 80-20 rule. 80% of all your tenants are going to be like, awesome, finally, we don't have to drive every day to pay our cash every day. And then 20% you're going to be like fighting tooth and nail to get them to pay. And if they don't pay, you got to get them out and you got to get tenants in there that will actually follow your rules. And so that's kind of what you have to do. And that's the mismanaged facilities. And then for the cash flowing facilities, so there's mismanaged and cash flowing. The cash flowing facilities, this should not be too difficult to do because they're all already being run, if not automated, they all kind of know rent is due on the 1st and I have to pay, so they may have some, arguments about like, I have to go online to pay now if they don't have a website or whatever, but this kind of stuff. But most of the time it's a little bit easier to manage that type of facility and roll that one over versus the mismanaged facility.
Okay. Yeah, I've found through my experience that it seems like one of the ones I'm purchasing now, it's a kind of a hybrid. At least initially I thought it was a cash flowing property, but then as he gave me the rent roll, I actually realized it's not 80% occupied, it's 60% occupied. And then he gave me the aged receivables and he doesn't actually make any effort to collect at all. And it's like over a year old or 3 years old.
That's why he wants to sell.
Yeah. So it's actually mismanaged. So it may not even fall in the middle of the spectrum. It might just be that the rose-colored glasses were taken off, and he's thrown over to the mismanaged side of the spectrum.
I would expect, like when you buy in this facility, what I would expect is that if 60% are paying and the rest are not paying, I would expect even like half of that to probably pay. I would expect some people even move out and just be like, screw you, I'm not going to do your rules or whatever, you know. So I would just kind of, I would have minimal expectations is what I would do. Right. So just be ready. Right. So just make sure that you try to have enough money to cover your mortgage. In a mismanaged facility, essentially what you do is try to have enough money to cover your mortgage for every month. But a lot of times, sometimes I don't even do that. I know I'm going to have to come out of pocket every single month. And you just try to get everything as automated, as systematized. Everybody's in the system paying, you're getting it all regulated. And that should take anywhere from like maybe 2 to 3 months, you know, if you're on top of it. And then after that, you'll start making money every single month to afford all your bills and stuff. But just kind of expect in the very beginning that, you know, I always say just go in with least amount of expectations. And then when people pay, you're like, whoa, yeah, great day. People actually paid today. You know, so now it's like when people pay, I'm just like, man, get those suckers out, right? But in the beginning, you're kind of a little bit more lenient, trying to get everything all automated and stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Huh. So I know we talked a lot in the group about how to find these storage facilities. Could you at least like scratch the surface on what you think are some of the best strategies for sourcing these deals, and also go into once you find it, what happens if it falls through, and kind of talk about that experience.
Yes, yes. So essentially the way I find my storage facilities is I get to the seller first before anybody else does. That's my rule. And so what that means is that you can't go on to like Crexy or LoopNet and look for a storage facility, because basically they all have contracts with commercial real estate brokers. And I have nothing against commercial real estate brokers except for the fact that they have no idea how to analyze storage facilities. Most of them, I'd say like 99% of all storage facility, I mean, all commercial brokers that I've talked to, they don't understand that a storage facility is actually analyzed as a warehouse. You know, you have to look at like the square footage. Like you don't look, it's not like a multifamily, right? So automatically, because like in the multifamily world, you know, you just automatically expect that your cap rate is 5 to 7%. Right. And they're like, and everybody, and you know this because you've been in that world, everybody's so happy when they get a 7% cap rate on a multifamily building, right? But and so what happens is the commercial real estate brokers, and you see this even like if you go to LoopNet and you go to Crexy, they have like the price per door there. I mean, essentially that's because that's like that's just the generic template that they have, right? But you can't really do that with storage facilities. I mean, every storage, like every area, everything is different because you go off of the square footage and the population. That's what you go off of with storage facilities. So you've got to look like within a 10-mile radius, what's the total square footage of that whole area, right? And then you look at the population of that area and you divide that and you try to be somewhere between 6 and 8. Right? 8 or 9 being on the high side and 5 or 6 being awesome. Let's do this deal, right? And you can't like, and commercial brokers just don't understand this. They just don't understand this concept. So they're just running it like their numbers per door is what they're doing. Okay. And so that's why you go on to like Crexy and LoopNet and you're seeing facilities that should be hundreds of thousands of dollars for like millions of dollars. Because they're like, oh, and then what they do is they run on the opportunity and not on the actual numbers or the as is numbers, right? So if it's a mismanaged facility and it's only 50% full, I mean, essentially when you do commercial deal analysis, I mean, you've got to run numbers, you've got to figure out what the purchase price is, what the gross, you know, the annual gross income is, right? The vacancy rate and the expense rate. And what they do is they don't look at the as is gross income, right? They look at like, oh, potentially this could make it. A lot of them run their numbers just on that, you know, and it's like, you can't run your numbers on like what it could possibly be making. You have to run your numbers on like, what is it now, you know? Now, when you're buying, you look and say, okay, like I'm okay with paying a 7 or 8% cap rate right now. That's okay with me because I know in the long run, if I fix this, I'll get like a 14% cap rate. So you can look at it like that. But, you know, I don't think commercial real estate brokers truly understand that, in my personal opinion. What I've seen essentially from, and you know this because you're in Texas, I mean, like, it's just ridiculous. Like, I don't know how anybody in Texas could ever even make any money off of storage facilities from Crexy or LoopNet. because it's like, how you don't even make enough income for it. So anyway, so that's kind of like, that's why I don't go online to look for storage facilities. Instead, I contact the sellers directly. And I just go, I try to get to the seller before any commercial broker gets to the seller. And that's my goal. And I do that by finding storage facilities that are not online. I call it the hidden market. But essentially, they're storage facilities that are not online. And talking to the seller. And when you're, because actually, I'm going to tell you, like, 15% of all storage facilities are owned by REITs. 85% are owned by mom and pop shops. And I'm going to tell you probably how many of the 85% do you think actually have websites?
Not a lot. I mean, these are guys have been running it for 20, 30 years, possibly.
What I'm saying, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, you want to contact those people that are not online. It's called hidden market. And that's my goal, is to find storage facility owners that have storage facilities, either mismanaged or cash flowing, that are not online. And so that's what I do to find my storage facilities. And those are the ones that you get the most bang for your buck from, because what happens is you get to them and you get to educate them on really what their value is, and not what, because the commercial real estate brokers, they're going to make 10% of whatever you sell. So they're just like, yeah, I'll shoot for like 2 million. Let's do it. And then cross their fingers that they sell, right? But in the end, I mean, if they would really just, they truly understand what their numbers are, then they could sell those things so easily, right? They really could, but they get into the middle. So I always try to go for storage facilities in the hidden market, try to talk to sellers directly. That's how I find all my storage facilities. And and that's basically it. And then, like you said, some of them don't work out. So I just had one under contract that literally was under contract for 90. Our close date was 90 days. And the day before closing, he decided that he did not want to sell the facility. He got cold feet. I'm not sure if like somebody told him what it was actually worth, because I was buying it like 50 cents on the dollar. So maybe he got wind of like, oh, maybe it's actually worth more than what it is. And he was going to owner finance a portion of that as well too. So it was like a really sweet deal. But in the end, he got and after we've run title, got the surveys done, we had to subdivide his land and plat it out, get all new plats and record the deeds and all this kind of stuff. I mean, we spent thousands and thousands of dollars. And then the day before, he was just like, I'm sorry, but I decided I don't want to sell. I was like, what? Are you serious? I was like so upset. That was not a good day for me. Well, that was on Friday last week. So, but then in the end, it's just like, okay, whatever. And the thing is over the course of 90 days, I had to raise like $600,000 to buy it. And I did. I raised that money. I mean, actually, I raised that money within like the first 30 days or so. But so now I have like $600,000. I need to go out and spend that money like ASAP, and go find something else. So I'm like out now, already looking for another storage facility or two to buy, so. But that's sometimes they just don't work out.
Okay.
It sucks.
How often would you say that happens?
Actually, that's the first time it's ever happened to me. Because most of the time you go along and they're just like, they're just kind of, they're good old boys just going along for the ride, and it's easy closings, and they're cool with, whatever happens, because now he knows, like, I mean, this person, like, now if he decides to sell, it's going to take another 60 to 90 days. And he was like, it's taking too long, and I was like, you do realize we're right in the middle of COVID, right? Like everything is taking forever to do anything right now. It just is. I don't know if he got antsy about it or what, but it doesn't really, that's the first time it's ever happened to me. But, it does happen on the storage side. Now on the houses, it happens quite often. Like you get towards the end of the deal and something like there's some sort of like title issue or lien comes up, or like the buyers just back out or whatever, so that happens quite often actually. But storage facilities, it does not happen very often, at least on the smaller deals, because I always do $1 million or less. Now, I don't know about the big deals. It might go through in 30 days, 60 days later, the buyer's just like, no, I don't want to do it or whatever, or the seller, might happen more on those types.
Right. I'm personally always skittish about competition, and that's also why I don't focus on single family. And not only does it take a lot of capital and time and energy to do it, it's not really scalable, but you have like so many people looking at the same asset class, and that property is such a higher chance that someone is overbidding you, and the seller's like suddenly changing their minds
Yeah.
whimsically, and
Which
you
is
don't
like
know why.
opposite of storage facilities, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's also something that
Or
drew
even
me to it. Yeah.
multifamily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's also why I decided I was looking at the two, and I was like, multifamily or self-storage. Well, multifamily seems like it was a great opportunity 10 years ago, but it's a very mature asset class now, and you know, great job for everyone that's still doing deals in that space. But I just,
Multifamily just was in the last couple of years. When I got
yeah,
into years ago, people were like, stay away from multifamily.
yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just really boomed in the last, and it's because, and the reason why I think is because there was so much competition in the single family. So everybody just moved, and nobody thinks to move to storage facilities. It's like, and people don't realize the storage facility industry is so small. I mean, there's only 50,000 storage facilities in the United States. And let's say 15% of those are run by the same 6 companies. So out of that, so you got what, 30, 40, 35,000 storage facilities run by just like people like you and me. I mean, the niche is so small. That's why I love about storage facilities too, because then you could be like what I call a storage nerd. We all, like, when we talk about storage, like, yeah, we get each other. But in like the single family residence, it's just it's so big that, I personally don't believe in competition, because I mean, believe me, I did 100 rehabs in the last 5 years, so I can talk. I mean, if you want to do whatever you want to do, you can do it, essentially, right? But there is a lot of competition. You have to have a strong stomach in the single family residence and multifamily industries right now.
okay. And personally, it comes from my own background because I used to be an analyst working at a bankruptcy trade claim shop. And bankruptcy trade claims, those people don't even know about it. It's a very esoteric part of finance. And you think, oh, no one's doing that because I never heard of that and I didn't even know it existed. But actually, there's always the same like 5 to 10 buyers in every single bankruptcy. And over the longest expansion in history, you have everyone chasing like too much capital, chasing too few deals. And that's what just really has scarred me, because we would do so much work and so much analysis on a case and be like, this is so awesome. And I'm best friends with the attorneys and they told me how much they're going to send the checks for. And I know when it's going to hit our bank, and like, this is great, but you can't build a position because people are bidding at the recovery rate. And because it's basically you're just buying at a discount, a piece of paper, you're buying it at say 80 or 90% and getting that 10 to 20 point spread.
Yeah.
But then once people start bidding at like 90, 91, 92, 93, it's like, they're not paying interest on this, buddy. There's no reason to pay 93.
That sounds like a tax sale.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's also why I didn't dig into tax liens, because I've heard those
That's
are,
why I don't get into tax liens.
yeah,
Like
hyper
people,
committed.
because it becomes a note. I mean, essentially,
Yeah.
you're a lender, is what it is, right? Yeah. So you may every once in a while acquire property, but like most people that are buying tax liens, they're not in it to get property. They're in it to just get that 20 or 30%. Because actually, Texas and Georgia are the 2 highest states for this. So you guys are 25%, we're 20% what we charge. So I mean, like, people are all over that in Georgia. So I totally get that. And it's also like the note industry. I mean, the note industry is so small. People buying and selling notes and brokering notes out. I mean, there's just not a lot of people that do that as well too. But yeah, I totally get that. It's frustrating.
Right. But I do like your mindset and approach to things, the abundance mentality. I've heard it, but it's hard to put it into practice. And so the surrounding myself with people like you is going to only help me and help others, obviously. Yeah, exactly. And I think like as I gain more experience, or like other people gain more experience in their journeys, I think they'll start to realize that as you.
I mean, the thing is that, I mean, just look, you're an example, right? You literally got into the storage industry like how many months ago, and you already have 2 storage facilities under contract.
Right.
So, I mean, I think there's just definitely like, the thing, and what I always tell my students is like, whatever you focus on expands, right? So whatever you make a priority in life is what's going to become, right? So people that just get up and work their 9 to 5, essentially nothing's going to come from that, right? But like you said, look, I'm going to buy a storage facility. There's a difference between I want to buy a storage facility and I'm going to buy a storage facility. And if you say like, I'm this type of person who's like, I'm going to do this, like whatever I say, I'm going to do, not like, oh, I want to go, buy. I say, I'm going to go, I'm going on a 4-month vacation. Well, guess what? I'm going to go on a 4-month vacation. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the thing too, is that like, try to keep an abundance mentality, but also think about the words that are coming out of your mouth, because whatever you say is what's going to happen in your life. Whatever you focus on is what's going to happen.
Yeah, and personally, I feel like there's no need to tell other people what I'm going to do. It's just more like telling yourself and believing in it and
Yeah,
just putting it to action. I never like broadcast on Facebook, hey, everyone, here's what I'm going to do. And actually, I'm the opposite. I actually have a hard time like broadcasting my life and telling everyone. I know you actually tell us you need to build some credibility and post some stuff. Hey, I'm driving for self-storage facilities, stuff like that. But
well, I mean, just think about if you did say, everybody, I'm just letting you guys know, I'm going to buy 4 storage facilities within the next year. Right? Not I want to buy 4 storage, but I'm going to buy 4 storage for, then I'm going to tell you, because I do that all the time on social media. I say, I'm going to, like I just sold a commercial building that I had. And then I had some guy message me. He's like, hey, I wanted to ask you about your commercial building, how that's going. I was like, I sold that. He's like, I thought you were going to do this whole thing with it. I said, yeah. I said, I bought it and I wholesaled it and I sold it. And it's like, that's the thing, is that whatever you say on social media, people are going to hold you accountable. Like they'll come back like months later and be like, oh, I thought you said you were going to buy 4. How's that going, or whatever? And you're like, oh, I didn't even buy 1, so when you broadcast something on social media, there's going to be somebody out there that holds you accountable and come back a couple months later and be like, hey, did you do what you said you're going to do? Or even post it out. So like, hey, like, okay, I say I'm going to buy 4 in a year. Can somebody please ask me if I actually bought 4?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. I think it's just a personality thing too. I just need to get more used to doing that. So it could actually be a useful tool. I guess my initial thought was some people might just talk about it and put it on social media and feel really good and inflate their ego but not do anything. But from what you just said, that makes a lot of sense too.
Well, because I posted out in one of the coaching programs I am in, right? So I have mine, and then I'm in like several coaching programs. One of the ones that I'm in, I posted out like, hey, I just bought my, 6th storage facility, and I'm looking to buy another one, congratulations to me. Like I just bought my 6th facility and I'm going to buy at the 7th facility within the next couple of months, something like that. And then some guy he private messaged me and he's like, hey, I'm interested in talking to you about like lending you some money. And I literally had just posted out like my wins. That's it. And like my wins and my goals. And then when I posted that out, he called me up and we had a session on Zoom together, and I kind of talked with him and showed him my business. He was like, yeah, I want to lend you some money. So he let me enough money for my next facility. So that's another thing with social media that's awesome. Right. So when you vocalize what you want to do, it actually kind of manifests even more than what you could think it could become.
Okay, fair enough. I think we've hit on most questions, and I don't want the episode to drag on too long, but one thing I did want to ask you before we go, I know your journey to self-storage, you initially bought an office building and a self-storage building. Could you hit on that office building and how that experience went? Although it was commercial real estate, it wasn't the same as storage, right?
I'm so glad I don't own that office building. All right now, because think about, that was a 10,000 square foot office building. It would have cost me probably, it would have cost probably $20,000 to $30,000 a month to run that thing. And I'm just glad that I'm not stuck with it right now. Because, retail space in this time period is probably the worst space to be in the real estate investing industry, because people are realizing that you can just run your entire business from home. Look at Amazon or Chase Bank or any business essentially now. They're realizing that you can literally run your business from home. So I would have had all this retail space, and who knows what would have happened. I would have been stuck with it essentially, and then tried to sell that retail space. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that I don't have it, and I'm glad that I did not buy. I basically, what happened is I bought it, and then after I held on to it for a little while, trying to decide what I wanted to do, I just wholesaled it off, and I made a lot of money on it too, which is pretty nice. So, and I would probably, if I had it now, I would have wholesaled it and probably lost money on it, or sold it and lost money on it, because retail space is just really struggling right now, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next couple of years with anything. Even like restaurants or whatever, all that space. I mean, I just picture like the world full of like, you know, like food trucks. Or like some outdoor patio space. Texas, Austin's got this down. Texas got this down, right? But like Georgia, we don't have anything like this. There's rarely places that you can sit outside and eat, you know, like there's just not this kind of concept here. So, which is very weird because it's hot, you know, but yeah, we don't have this.
It's interesting. I would think at least like in Atlanta, maybe city center, they'd have something similar. But
I mean, they have some, but it's not, no, it's like, it's buildings. City centers is just like skyscraper buildings. Whereas like, you know, you go downtown, like Dallas or Austin, and it's like, there's restaurants with patio space and there's like live music venues and this kind of a thing, you know, whereas like in Atlanta, it's just building after building after building. There's not a lot of like outdoor patio space. And I'm sure that the restaurants that do have outdoor patio space, they're like, yes, thank you for this. You know, you could go to like Panera Bread and like sit outside or whatever. So, you know, some places, but like, you know, I'm talking about like nice restaurants that you can go out to eat and stuff.
right.
It's going to be interesting with the retail space to see what happens over the course of the next couple of years.
Okay. So that wasn't really like like a corporate office. It was actually a retail like shopping center.
No, it was a corporate office.
Okay.
It was like a corporate office slash like retail space as well too, is what it was.
Okay. Kind of a mixed use.
Yeah, like mixed use is what it was. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So,
But you didn't actually like focus on leasing it up or anything. It was more just a wholesale deal.
you know, I just honestly, the truth is that somebody called me up and asked me to buy it from them, and it was like $200,000 over what I bought it for. So I decided to sell it.
Okay.
$200,000 instead of like, you know, so I was in the process. I got all the drawings, everything all done, in the process of making it into it was going to be a school, a real estate investing school is what it was going to be into. But and I had all the drawings, everything, permits ready to go. And then that's basically what happened was I sold the entire project with the permits and everything that was ready to go. And the person that came in and bought it, they just finished it out and did what, but I don't think they did it into a school. They did it in something else. But it took me a year and a half to get all that done, you know? So, you know, my time and effort over that time took it took a lot of money to do all that. So, yeah, so they came in and bought it and they just like took it over and just started like doing the rehab and stuff. Just transferred the name of the contract over to them and the permits. So it kind of worked out for them. And I probably should drive over and just take a look and see like what they're doing, because now if they're still open or not, I have no idea.
Maybe they wholesale it too. It's just a chain.
Yeah, that's what happens too sometimes. But honestly, what happened was after, because we were thinking about doing this real estate investing school, and then once we sold that, I was like, okay, well now what am I going to do? Right. And that's how the coaching came about. And that's, I was like, well, I'll still do it. I'll just do it like a group coaching program, do it virtually. And so what happened was I started building this coaching program up, and it became completely virtual. I mean, because you know how it works. And then all of a sudden I started realizing, like, you know what, like we're completely virtual now. I mean, rarely do we ever have to be at any one place at any given time. You know, and so from there, it just was like, okay, well, now we can really travel. And that was like beginning of 2019. And now it's like, well, now we can really travel and get out and do the things that we want to do and really just make, you know, everything that we're doing is just electronic, virtual, automated, systematized. And that makes our life really, truly passive so that we can just do whatever we want to do whenever we want to do it. And so for next year, we're like, let's hit the road. Let's go out. Let's do some stuff. You know, no reason to just be sitting here behind the desk all the time when everything that I do can be done anywhere in the world. So I'm actually, when I look back and think about it, I'm actually very grateful that happened, because now it frees up my time so much so that I can go out and teach other people how to do what I'm doing, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely something that attracts me to it. The whole idea of, I guess, everyone running your business from the beach if you want to.
That's what I'm saying. That's what you can do, especially with storage facilities. You could totally do this because we do. You know, we do it. I mean, I'm living proof. You can do it.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people in the storage investing world don't think this way, right? So like when COVID happened, Like a lot of storage facilities, they had struggle, especially the big ones. Like if you go to U-Haul and rent a space, guess what you have to do? You have to go inside. They got to fill the form out. They got to sign it, and then you got to pick your space and go or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And that's a lot of all these big major companies. They really struggle with that for the first couple of months. We were completely electronic the entire time, so we had no issues with it. A lady just called me up. She wants to sell her storage facility. And she was like, this COVID just screwed everything up. She's like, nobody wants to come to the office anymore. And I was like, well, go electronic. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, there's like softwares that you just like, we're completely electronic. It's just like a software that you buy and you just manage everything online. She's like, I don't want to do that. I just want to sell it. I'm done with it. But a lot of storage facility owners were never, ever electronic. Like you had to meet the owner down there, sign the contract. I've talked to many people on the phone that are interested in the mastermind, and I tell them, like, I'm going to teach you how to be electronic. Oh, I never even thought of that. Oh my gosh, you can actually be electronic. I was like, yeah, like I haven't met a tenant in like 3 years. There's no reason to meet your tenants. Anyways, so that's the best part about it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I will, in the show notes, I'll be sure to post a link to the website for your mastermind group and everything. Okay, cool. We didn't talk about it a lot, but are there other ways that our listeners could get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about what you're doing or the mastermind group? Just
check out storagenerds.com.
Okay.
That's it. We're storage nerds. Sorry, Mason. You're a storage nerd.
Got it. That's good. All right.
That's it.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks again for your time. I hope this was enlightening for everyone and hopefully open them up to other asset classes outside of single family or multifamily. And yeah, I hope to do this again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode and were able to understand why self-storage is such a great asset class in terms of being pretty much passive after you do the hard work up front to set it up and get things automated. Ultimately, it's no tenants, termites, and toilets, and it's just a lot less moving parts and also not quite as competitive. So for all these different reasons, it just makes a really compelling opportunity. Hope you really enjoyed it. If you feel compelled to do so, please leave us a review and subscribe if you haven't already. And hope to have you on our next episode. Keep on tuning in. Thanks a lot.